ready? This lecture, this lecture is called "Are You a Source of Pain or Are You a Source of Pleasure?" Because whether you know it or not, everything you do, you are a source of pain or a source of pleasure. And the brain only cares about two things: whether someone's a source of pain or whether someone's a source of pleasure. God designed it to be that way. All right. And so we're going to talk about this and hopefully give you a way of thinking about how you are in your relationships. All right. Now, before we do that, I'm going to, since a lot of people are new here, I want to do just a short lecture. So that circle right there, if that circle represents all the knowledge that exists in the world, how much knowledge of that knowledge would you say you possess? Like a really small, minute dot, right? Maybe less than a pixel. Here's the picture, right? I got to make it big enough to see it. So we're all admitting, logically, rationally, based on all the knowledge of this world, you don't know much, do you? Have you ever noticed, though, that when you're in conflict with someone, your brain acts like it knows everything? Yeah. In conflict, your brain acts like it knows everything, but you just admitted you don't know much, all right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take all this knowledge and we're going to divide it into some categories. So in the realm of knowledge, there are things that you know, and there are things that you don't know. Now, what you know and what you don't know have one thing in common. Your brain knows what it knows, and it knows what it doesn't know. Someone shares with me something that you know that you know. 1 plus 1 is what? 3. You know that. All right, something else. Something you know that you know. Hopefully, yes.
I know that my name is Natalie.
And you know your name is Natalie. Y'all got the concept, right? There's another realm of knowledge in the wheel of knowledge of all the things that you know you don't know. What's something you know you don't know? How to do brain surgery. Something else you know you don't know.
Roller coaster engineering.
Roller coaster engineering. One of the things I always say in my seminars with couples is I know that I don't know quantum physics. So you got the idea, right? And by the way, I know that I don't want to know quantum physics. All right? Now, the things you know and know you don't know is your dot. It isn't much. Because in your dot, your little realm of knowledge are the things you know and know you don't know. And here's the thing about the brain. The brain is designed as a social organism. And the brain does one thing really well. It attaches meaning to everything. Right now, at 1/20th a second, your brain is trying to figure me out if you don't know me. But you can only figure me out based on your little dot of knowledge. Does that make sense? Because the brain has to know, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Ever had your boss call you in and say, be in my office tomorrow at 3? What's the first thing you think? What did I do? And then you start thinking what? Negative. And then you didn't know you're getting promoted tomorrow, right? And you lost the whole night asleep, thinking it was bad. So the things we know you don't know are in your dot. Practical application. My wife and I, Luella, we're arguing about something. You can only argue from your realm of knowledge, which is the dot. It's not much. So I'm arguing from my realm. She's arguing from her realm. But in the midst of this argument back and forth, Luella says something that I didn't know, which is the biggest, massive area outside of the circle. This is the area of the things you don't know that you don't know. So what's something you don't know that you don't know? The answer is I don't know. And if you're sitting here going, huh? It works this way. Before you ever heard my name, saw me, or saw my name, before that moment in time, you did not know that you did not know me. And the reason you did not know that you did not know me is you had no what? You had no knowledge of me. The moment you gain knowledge of me, how you gain that knowledge, in that moment, I then moved from don't know you don't know to now I'm somebody you know don't. After tonight, you may not want to know me. That would be a different conversation though. Got it? So my wife and I were arguing back and forth, and in the midst of the argument, she says something that I didn't know that I didn't know. And when she said the thing that I didn't know, it conflicted with what I knew that I knew. You remember before? You're defending your point. Then they said something you never thought of before because it was in the realm you didn't know. But now they said something you didn't know. And when they said the thing you didn't know, it conflicted with what you knew. And then when you heard the thing you didn't know, that conflicted with what you knew. You also knew in that moment you were wrong. What do most people do in that moment when they learn something they didn't know that conflicts with what they know, and they also know they're wrong?
Double down.
They do double down. They get defensive for whatever form it takes. And you would ask, why are you getting defensive when you know you're wrong based on what you just learned that you didn't know? We say it this way in our world. It's because you're not teachable. I raised my kids to know one thing and one thing for sure. You always know mature people. They're teachable. Immature people are not. Immature people are people who have a dot of knowledge and they live as if that is all the knowledge. Denominations do this. Churches do this. Groups do this. My way is the only way, and it's the right way. And if you don't agree with me, you're the problem. You just proved you're a fool. Because how do you know that you don't know you might be wrong? It's because you're not teachable. Scripture says that wise men accept rebuke. Well, why do wise men accept rebuke? Because wise men know they know there's a lot of things they don't know. Because they know there's a lot of things they don't know, they stay teachable. And by the way, I've been married 40 years so well. We both grew up in broken homes with a lot of abuse and craziness and addictions. I did not know I was passive aggressive. I did not know I was manipulative. I did not know emotionally I was a child. Because I lacked the self-awareness to know those things. See, we all have blind spots, don't we? David the king says something interesting at the end of Psalm 139. He says to God, show me my hidden parts, my hidden ways. David's acknowledging, I know that I know there are things about me I don't know that I don't know, that I know you know. Show them to me. That takes courage. That takes courage. But when you believe your belief system or that everything that you know is all there is to know, I always told my kids, in the moment you act like you're right and everybody else is wrong, one of two things happened. You became God or you became a fool. I don't think you're God. So don't prove that you're a fool. Stay teachable. Does that make sense? And this is why they killed Jesus, by the way. Jesus spoke outside of the religious system. Hey, you can't touch a leper. Yes, I can. No, you can't. And we know we can't. Well, you don't know I can. Hey, you can't do that on a Sabbath. Yes, I can. No, you can't. And we know you can't. Well, you don't know that I can. And they killed him for it. Why? It threatened their power. Because they weren't what? Teachable. The Old Testament says, my ways are not your ways and my thoughts are not your thoughts. You will never have him figured out. He's too big to be known. Too big to be known. You only know him so much, but he's too big to be known. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I had one of my mentors years ago said, the problem with you evangelicals, Rick, is that you spend so much time studying the Bible, Hebrew, Greek, and you tear it apart because you think the more you know the Bible, the more you'll know God. And he said, what you're going to find out long term, God is so big you can't know him completely. And yet you pursue knowledge thinking that will make you know God. You won't. And I went, you're right. It's exactly what we do. I go, what's the answer? Wisdom. Wisdom is powerful. He said, learn what we learned centuries ago. I say, what's that? Learn to love like him. You'll know him better. We pursue knowledge. We don't mature in what? Love. And the greatest of these is not faith. The greatest of these is what? Love. You have a lot of faith without love, and you're just a clinging symbol. I think of Barney Fife on that show when he had the symbols, and he, and he like took them away from him, right? That's what you're like. Because the greatest of these is love. Now, faith with love and hope with love is powerful. You can have faith without love and hope without love. Maybe the purpose of faith isn't to increase your knowledge of God. Maybe the purpose of faith is to mature you in love. Maybe that's really the purpose. And if you're not more loving over time, more patient, more kind, more teachable, then maybe that will call into question your what? Your faith. Does that make sense? And so this lecture kind of has to do with that. Is that okay? Now, people have said that emotions are illogical. This is one of those maybe you don't know. So I might say something tonight that triggers you. Oh, I don't believe that. Just tell that little voice in your head to shut up. Hear me out first, then write me off. Don't be like the Pharisees and just write off. I might be in the don't know you don't know world. That makes sense? What do you do professionally?
Physical therapist.
Physical therapist. All right. His knowledge of physical therapy is that. Mine is far less than that. Got it? Now, if I took my realm of knowledge, went and did his job, what would I look like? A fool, thank you. I would.
What would your patient look like?
Yeah.
Get your popcorn ready.
My point is this. I tell you, I'm not smarter than you, but I do know this. This is my realm of knowledge of healthy relationships and how things work and function compared to people. I'm not smarter than anybody. I do operate in a realm of knowledge that's greater. Does that make sense? All I really do is impart knowledge. You can do what you want with it, but at least hear me out first. Does that make sense? It has been said many times from pulpits for generations that love is not an emotion. It is not a feeling. That love is a what? It's a choice, a decision. I'm going to prove to you that's not true. It is not true. And here's why I know. I can act loving to you, but feel no love for you. Don't fool yourself. Just because I treat you with goodwill and respect, and when you treat someone with goodwill and respect, you are treating them in a loving way. But don't assume because I treat you in a loving way, doesn't mean I feel love for you. That doesn't equate. Someone said, well, you can act your way into loving someone. If you're being beat on a regular basis by a spouse with a baseball bat, your brain won't ever let you feel love. You're always will feel threat. It's not rocket science. It's simple when you understand how God designed the brain. And brain science is proving the Bible right. Like crazy. Laughter does good like a what?
Medicine.
Do you know why? Not because he said it. It's because he knew how he designed us. Guess what brain science realizes? The more you laugh, the more you increase serotonin in your brain. Guess what serotonin wards off? Depression. But when you quit laughing and you get depressed, you quit laughing. And then the more you're depressed, your brain will deplete itself of serotonin. Now you're in clinical depression because your brain depleted itself of serotonin. So now you got to go to a doctor who gives you a pill. You know what the pill does? It increases serotonin. I go, laugh. Stay off the meds. All right? Do it naturally. We God designed it. Don't take things so serious all the time. There's wisdom in laughing. All right? Now don't laugh at somebody else's expense. That would be unkind. No goodwill in that. All right? So then, you actually have a card to take with you, and I'm going to put this up here, and I have it here. All right? This is one of our core lectures we talk about. So, if you understand the purpose of emotions are logical. They're not illogical if you understand the logic of emotions. And what's the logic of emotions? Right there. The brain is designed by God to avoid pain and pursue what? Pleasure. If you have a headache, what do? You take something. You have acid reflux. What do? You take something or you do something. Why? The brain doesn't want pain. The brain only wants what? Pleasure. It's what it's designed by God to do. All right? If you have an ache, you do something. Why? Pain pursues what? Pleasure. You have problem in your lower back, you go see a physical therapist, hoping that he can teach you what to do different so you don't have as much what? Pain. The absence of pain is what? Pleasure. The absence of pain is pleasure. The brain is designed to do that. Now, if you understand that emotions are not good or bad, they just are. You don't make decisions on emotions, but you never disrespect someone's emotional part of the brain, which is on this side of the brain, known as the limbic system. Limbic system is the emotional part of the brain. It is the master switch. Nothing hits the data logic brain before it goes through the emotional brain. So everything that hits the data logic brain is colored by your emotional states. Your identity, your sense of value and worth is all linked to your emotional brain. So if you're going to love others, you have to love who? Scripture says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you're married here, Scripture says a husband who loves his wife loves who? Himself. Didn't say God. This idea you have to love God and love your spouse, it's not true. Because he's writing to Christians in Ephesus who he assumes love God, but he doesn't assume just because you love God, you love you. Husband who loves his wife loves himself. Why? To the degree your self-esteem and your self-worth is high, then you won't harm other people. To the degree your self-esteem and self-worth is low, you'll harm people. Because you'll take from others in order to make up for your deficiencies and your lack of self-worth. But when your self-worth is high, you'll treat people with goodwill, respect, humility, empathy on a regular basis as a way of being, as my mentor always said it to me. And so you'll notice then, we avoid pain, pursue pleasure. Now, what brings us pleasure? What brings us pleasure are the things that bring us pleasure. Example, for me, if you gave me a bowl of mint chocolate chip ice cream, it would be a source of pleasure. If you put a bowl of butter pecan, that is a source of pain. If you gave me a New York strip, well done. Over here, you put liver in front of me. My brain goes, Makes sense? Now, the things that bring us pleasure, we actually desire. That's why people say things like, oh, I love mint chocolate chip, I love the Jaguars, whatever it is you love. Why? It's because it brings you what? Pleasure. And you feel it. You feel the pleasure of the things that bring you pleasure. And the things that bring us pleasure, we desire. And the reason we desire them is because they meet our needs. There are two overarching needs that all humans have. Survival needs, food, air, water, shelter. Chick-fil-A helped out with that tonight, right? And there's another set of needs that are hardwired into the brain. They are biological as well. They're known as relational needs, bonding needs, attachment needs. There's a whole field of mental health known as attachment disorders. Kids who are passed around from home to home, foster kids, their brains never learn to bond. And here's the thing. The greater the deficiency in attachment, the prefrontal cortex of those kids they don't develop well. So the lack of bonding and attachment actually does affect human development. It is not good for men to be what?
Alone.
That has nothing to do with marriage. We've taught that passage is about marriage, because if that has to do with marriage, then nobody should be single. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you'll always be alone. That verse has been relooked at by Christian psychologists, leaders completely. And the medical journals are still proving it to be true. You are not meant to live life alone. You're meant to live life connected to God's self and others. All humans need other people. The brain is social, it's communal, it needs others. That's why in the New Testament, there are 59 one another verses. Those one another verses have nothing to do with theology. Comfort one another, encourage one another. Romans 12:15, mourn with those that mourn. Support one another, Galatians 6:2. 59 one other verses. What do those one other verses have to do? It has to do with your ability to, your human design to not live life what? Alone. Yet, the greatest epidemic, the leading health epidemic in America today is not COVID. It's been around for almost 15 years, and about 12 years ago, it's so bad that health insurance companies contracted Tivity Healthcare, $1 billion health system, to fix this problem. This one problem increases premature death 60%. It'll increase strokes and heart attack 38%, 39%. Atherosclerosis 38%. It increases all kinds of abdominal problems around 36 to 37%. It'll increase clinical depression. It increases addictions. It increases anxiety disorders. This one issue creates all of that. Who pays for the treatment of all that? Insurance companies do. That's why they want it fixed. Well, what is it that causes all this? Loneliness. Loneliness. Americans are more lonely and disconnected than they've ever been in American history. And folks, let me tell you something. The research is clear. It's not this. This did not do it. This exacerbated it. What created the loneliest problem? The breakdown of the family. The breakdown of the family. Kids are growing up disconnected emotionally from their families, from their parents. Kids are emotionally disconnected. I grew up that way. Lonely, disconnected. And when I left home, I had no healthy bonds or attachments upwards. And when you're lonely, you are in what? Pain. It's not good to be what? You can go to church alone and walk out alone. What was it? Last November, that church guy came in for the First Coast churches. He's a church researcher. And he's talking about the church post-culture. And he told all of his pastors in there, he said, whether you like it or not, the church is no longer seen by the church in general and the culture as a place of community. You're a place for content.
You're a place of what?
Content. And he held up his phone. He went, and you can get content anywhere 24/7 right here. But nobody, the people do no longer see the church as a place for connection. It's a place for content. People go there alone, they walk out alone. Think about it this way. Would you really take your mask off? Would you really take your mask off at church? And say, I'm struggling with whatever? Most people won't. Why? Because we learned it's not safe. It's not a safe place. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And the safest place to take your mask off should be the body of Christ. Or you're in community. In community, whatever that community looks like. Does that make sense? All of us are not meant to live life what? You can be married and very much what? 2004, 2005. Worst 2 years of my marriage. Luell had a lot of changing to do. I'm glad I waited. Actually, it was more me. It was more me. And you can be laying right next to someone in the same bed and be miles apart. Right? Disconnection. Aloneness. Not meant to live life alone. We're meant to live life connected. And when we're connected, we're meeting each other's what? Needs. And when your needs are met, you feel loved. And when your relational needs are not met, or your physical needs are not met, you feel unloved. Example, let's say to those in the church community here, let's say you go to church on Sunday morning and there's a homeless person right outside your church with a sign, haven't eaten, please feed me. And everybody walks by them. And while you're in there worshiping, having walked by that person, a Satanist drives by. Says, what's wrong, man? I haven't eaten in 5 days. I'm hungry. Come on, I'll take you down to McDonald's. Who does he feel loved by? The person who cared enough to stop and meet the need. That's who they feel loved by. And that's the person he will bond to. So I tell people, guard your heart when you're alone. You're open to temptation. But everybody wants to get our needs met. And when our needs are met, we feel pleasure. If needs are not met, you feel pain. Real simple. And if I am meeting Luella's physical needs and her relational needs. Now, we define your relational needs as cares. I don't have this here for you, but I don't think we have a list up there of them either, do we? Nope. These, I formed it this way. These are the 10 relational needs that are hardwired into your brain when you're born. And be with you till the day you die. And they must be met just like food, air, water, shelter. C is comfort. There's 5 A words. We all need comfort, attention, acceptance, affection, approval, and appreciation. We need respect, We need encouragement. 1 Thessalonians 5:11, encourage one another. We need security and support. All those needs are linked to the 59 one another's in the New Testament. And when those relational needs are met, you bond, you connect, you feel what? Loved. And we always feel love for the things that bring us pleasure. And here's the other part of it. We also feel love for the people who are a source of pleasure. How you treat someone. How you treat someone. Because whether you like it or not, the way you treat people, moment by moment by moment, you are a source of pain or you are a source of what? Pleasure. And just because you think you're coming across loving doesn't mean you are. One of the things I learned and I now teach in my work is this. The way you think you come across is not the way you are coming across. And the way you think you're being experienced isn't the way that you are being experienced. And what people do is they defend how they think they are or believe they are. But in the end, it's how you are that matters. And maturity is the awareness of how I'm thinking I'm coming across and is congruent with how I'm coming across. But if you think you're one way and you're actually the opposite, that's immaturity. Mature people know how they're coming across because that's how they intend to come across. Make sense? That's self-awareness. All right? And so when we are a source of pleasure on a regular basis and we're meeting each other's what? Needs. Then Luella will always have a feeling desire for me and she'll feel love for me. Yet when I stop being a source of pleasure and start being a source of what? Pain. The brain does not feel love for someone that is a threat. The brain feels danger. The brain feels threat. That's what it feels. Folks, whether you like it or not, you will never feel joy and anger in the same moment. And you'll always feel the negative over the positive. You will. How God designed it. Pain, because I'm treating Luella in an unhealthy way, immaturely. She's not going to feel love. She's going to feel what? Threat. And when your brain feels threatened by someone, it does the two things that make sure you don't bond to another person. In order to bond, you have to be emotionally open and you've got to be physically close. The brain requires both in order to bond. Emotional openness is about vulnerability. And the brain will not be vulnerable by someone that is a what? Is a threat. Why? It's designed by God to stay away. Now, you want this working. All right? You want this part of your brain working this way. Because an 18-wheeler is coming across the interstate at you in not even an hour. You're going to shut down emotionally, and your brain jerks to be able to get away from it. Why? The brain does not want to be connected to something that's a danger. You with me? But in intimate relationships, when you're triggered in a fight, flight, or freeze, you better regulate that energy once you're triggered so that you can step back into your prefrontal cortex where love and good truth comes from, and you can treat people with goodwill and respect. Now, pain, I feel threat and danger. Well, what does the brain do? What does the brain do with those things that it's afraid of? It'll fight it because it's angry. It'll run from it, which is a flight response, because it's afraid. Or long-term, if you continue to be a threat, the brain has one last protective mechanism. It goes numb. And that's when you hear things like this. I don't care if we're married or not. I don't care if you live in the house or not. I don't care anymore. You go apathetic with that person. Why? Because the brain is trying to keep you alive the best it can, how God designed it. But if you keep up being a source of pain, over time, that person will go into a freeze response to you and feel nothing. And that's when you hear this phrase. Well, I love Rick. I'm just not in love with Rick. Interesting statement, right? I love him, but I'm not in love with him. What does that mean? It means I love him as a decision. But the righteous brothers are absolutely right. You lost that loving feeling. Whoa, that loving feeling. You lost that loving feeling. Now it's gone, gone, gone. Whoa. Right? They weren't wrong about that. Because you can lose the feelings of love. Now, here's the key. Love becomes a decision. And I don't like using that because if I don't feel love for you, then love becomes a decision. I don't have feelings of love for you. I say it this way in my world. Not saying I'm right, but I believe I'm right. You got the difference. When you lose the feelings of love, you can still treat people with goodwill and respect. You never, ever, ever, ever treat any human with ill will and disrespect. Because to do that with the evidence that you're not loving. And secondly, to treat people with ill will and disrespect disregards your dignity as a person. And you never tear down a person's dignity. Ever. Just because they exist, they get dignity. We execute people on death row with what? Dignity. One of the greatest things that get people fired today, we call it emotional intelligence. That's why most people get fired. It's the way they treat people in the workplace. The largest trainings in the corporate world today is around emotional intelligence. What is called emotional intelligence in the corporate world is mature versus immature, or the Old Testament ways is wise and fools. It's all the same thing. And when you look at the leadership within the church today, it's coming out publicly. Abusive leaders, dysfunctional leaders, harsh, mean, insensitive, yet they're great preachers. So what? God can use a dog. He used a donkey once. What matters is that we mature in love. Why? Because when you mature in love, you always treat people with what? Dignity. Never, ever, ever tear down a person's dignity. I don't even care if they're a homeless person on the street or a drug addict in the gutter. It's still a person worthy of being treated with what? Dignity. Worthy. And I'm telling you, folks, I did not learn this on my own. I learned this the hard way. Many years ago, I served on a large church in a downtown setting. And there was a little old lady, probably in her 50s. I was probably in my late 30s at the time. And you always saw her. Short gray hair, schizophrenic, always talking to herself, dirty. And you saw her a lot downtown. But one day I was watching her walk past one of our garages, and I had a feeling of disgust. I'm not proud of the story. I had a feeling of disgust. And as I had that feeling of disgust, Holy Spirit put an image in between me and her of a little girl, 3 to 4 years old, blondish hair, white lace dress. And Spirit said, why can't you see her that way? Well, I want to see her the way you do. You'll have to meet her then. Well, you tend to forget those things, don't you? Months go by. Sunday night before Christmas of that year, I was running late, and the uniform of the day down there is a suit. So I'm in my suit, and she's sitting in the garage, in the park, right there next to one of our parking garages. Spirit said, there she is. I went, I'm late. There she is. Fine, I'll go. So I went over and met her. Her name was Ellen. Ellen was in her right mind. I'm here to tell you, I'm the student. Ellen's the teacher. For whatever reason, this lady began to tell me about her life. Molested from 3 years old all the way past 18, 19. Raped repeatedly. Started alcohol and drugs when she was 10. Just to deaden the pain. The logic of emotion. No wonder she did what she did. She's surviving the best way she knows how with what she has. And as I'm listening to her story, I'm hit with this realization. No little girl, 3 or 4 years old, grows up thinking of all the scheme of life. I want to be a drug addicted schizophrenic walking the streets of Jacksonville. People make decisions based on what happens to them to survive the best way they know how. To at least find a little bit of what? Or deaden the pain. Because at least when I hit the alcohol, I do the drug, at least in that moment, things are what? Pleasurable. Because life is mostly what? Pain. And I realized just how much I judged. At one point in this, she said to me, she says, you know, I'm a non-person. And I actually thought she's off her meds. The Spirit said, ask what she means by that. I said, what do you mean by that, Helen? She says, I'm a non-person. I don't exist. I said, what does that mean? Here's what she told me. I have walked past you people for over a year. You still don't even look at me. You never look me in the eye. You don't see me. I don't exist. I'm a non-person. And I just broke down. The Spirit said to me, you see, Rick, I'm not impressed when you go in there and you walk past the Ellens of the world. It's when you love the least of these, then you did it to me. And I asked her to forgive me and the church I had worked at because we failed. We say we love, but the Lord said, no, you don't. When you walk past her, you see her, and yet you really don't. You judge her. And it taught me. It taught me. I had many opportunities like that to begin to feel what Father feels for people, to see him through his prism. And he taught me how to love. And through that journey, I found that over time, I'm more a sense of what? Pleasure in how I treat people, and less a source of what? And when you're a source of pleasure, people are attracted to you. They want to be around you. They want to be around you. Why? Because people are looking for people that love them unconditionally, who care about them, and then will walk them where they need to be. Does that make sense? But if you judge, criticize, ignore, negate, invalidate, don't even recognize them, you're not going to be a source of pleasure. You're going to be a source of what? And here's what Father taught me. It doesn't matter how much theology you have, Rick. If you are a source of pain in how you treat people, your faith means nothing to them. Because all they know is how you treat them. That makes sense? Are you a source of pleasure or are you a source of pain? Now, how does self-esteem fit into this? Simple. You can't live this way over here on a regular basis if your self-worth isn't high and if your self-esteem isn't high. Now, what is self-worth? Self-worth has to do with the value you place on yourself. See, every person in here, in my mind, and I can't get past my minister side, so it's a part of who I am. My faith, it influences all of my thinking. So, if you're not part of the faith community here, please give me a little bit of grace and leeway here. It is instrumental to who I am. My point is this. I know unsaved people, non-Christian people who have high self-worth. I know low Christian people who have no self-worth. And they're harmful. But what is self-worth? Self-worth is the value that you place on yourself. You see, everybody in here, you have worth, regardless of what little voice in your head tells you, and regardless of what your parents told you, regardless of what a past boyfriend or girlfriend told you. You have worth, mainly because God let you be here. And the fact that the Father sent his biological Son to die on the cross for you, that is further evidence that you have what? Worth. Because you don't die for things you hate. You die for things that you value. And I left home at age 18 and joined the Navy. I stationed in Jacksonville. I did not believe it had worth or value because I always taught you don't. I wasn't even allowed to have, I got punished for liking chocolate ice cream. When everybody else wanted vanilla, I wanted chocolate. I don't like vanilla. I want chocolate. But I got punished for that. I wasn't even allowed to be me. When I left home, I didn't know who I was. I was a chameleon. I could blend with any group in high school, looking for love and acceptance. And I found it by blending, becoming what people wanted me to be or what I thought they wanted me to be. Because if I could blend to become what you wanted me to be, then I would feel what? Love. Source of what? But actually, it was just an unhealthy way of feeling loved. Because I didn't love myself yet. And when your self-worth is high, your self-esteem is high. Now, self-esteem is linked to 4 questions. And you'll see them there on your card. Every adult, every child throughout your adult life need to have these 4 questions answered, particularly children. Do I have value? Do I matter? Am I loved and lovable? And do I have a purpose, or am I just existing? Now, for me, the cross answers all 4 of those for me, all right? But when I left home at age 18, I did not believe I had value. I did not believe I mattered. I was told I wouldn't amount to much. I didn't have a purpose, and I wasn't sure if I was loved or lovable. And so I acted out in stupid ways in order to feel valued, in order to feel that I mattered, without realizing that I really do matter. Does that make sense? And when my self-worth and self-esteem were secure, which they are today at age 62, if you don't like me, I might be bothered by it, but I ain't losing sleep over it. That make sense? I'm not going to lose sleep. Why? I'm secure in who I am, such that if I do something that hurt you, I will own up to it right away and ask you to forgive me. Why? Because people of high self-worth and high self-esteem treat people with value and worth. People low self-respect will be disrespecting. People low self-worth are going to treat you in a way that they are. But when your self-worth and value are high, then you're going to value other people. Why? You don't devalue yourself, and you know you don't devalue others. Does that make sense? And so the question is, are you a source of pleasure, or are you a source of what? And you get to decide how you're going to be day by day, moment by moment.
I don't have an answer for that.
We'll find an answer.
Yeah. That's interesting. I guess that was mine. I don't know. Does that make sense, folks? Now, one last thing as I close. The word love is greatly misused in culture today. An example, I love my wife, I love the kids, my kids, I love the U.S. military, and I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. But you hear in that the misuse of the word love, right? Now, if you think of it purely in a biological sense, it makes sense why I love mint chocolate chip ice cream, because it brings me what? Pleasure. But when you put that word love up against ice cream and Luella, it makes you go, huh? That means something different, doesn't it? There is a higher form of loving, and that's in relationship. That's intimacy, bonding, attachment. For God so what? Love the world. Love your neighbor, love your enemy. I don't know about that. What if you change the word love to this word? What difference would it make in how you treated people? For God so loved the world, now we'll change it to this word. For God so valued the world. Value one another. Value your enemy. The word love and value can be used interchangeably. Because love never devalues the object of love. I'll say that again because I think it sounds good. Love never devalues the object of love. And if you're married, if you treat your spouse on a regular basis in a way that devalues them, do not be surprised at some point in time they question whether you what?
Love them.
And if you say you do, I would say to you, I hear you, but you understand that statement has zero integrity. It has zero credibility. Because if you say you love them, why do you devalue them? Does that make sense? And you see this among denominations. We make our systems of theology more important than what the Bible teaches. Folks, that's why I like being maybe Protestant. It's the best denomination out there. Because denomination is just another word for division. And what divides us? Issues that have no bearing on eternity. Free will or predestination, it doesn't send you to hell. Leave it alone. Tongues or no tongues, leave it alone. See, the military works this way. You know, Jesus, your Savior? You say, yeah. I go, we're friends. Well, I speak in tongues. Feel free. I don't care. I don't speak in tongues. I don't really care. I believe in predestination. You ain't got choices. I don't care. I believe in free will. You got choices. I don't care. Here's why. You do far greater through unity than disunity.
Amen.
Far greater through unity than disunity. And what divides us are issues that have no bearing on eternity. Leave it alone. Have a relationship. Be a source of pleasure. Love each other. And forget and leave alone those other issues. It doesn't matter in the scheme of eternity. It just matters to you because you want to make your way right and everybody else is wrong. And what you don't know is you're just operating out of a little dot of knowledge. And the Lord looks at you and says, you sure you want to go there? Rick Marks. This is why to live this way fully, humility is essential. Humility is essential. And here's what the Bible talks about. God gives grace to the humble and resists the who? The proud. But the psychological research on humility is powerful. The more humble you become, the more powerful you'll become as a person. Humble people aren't bothered when someone cuts them off in traffic. They're not. They don't get triggered. They just like, be blessed. Go on. Why? I'm not going to let you rob me of my peace in this moment. For you to allow other people to rob you of your peace and joy in a moment, that's not about them. That's about you. What is it about you that's let people rob you of your joy and peace? Own your own. It's powerful to live that way, but it takes humility. And God opposes the proud. And for those in faith community, we know that verse, but here to talk about why. He opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. Has to do with the spirit realm. What got Lucifer kicked out of heaven? It was pride. I'm going to sit above your throne. Like, oh, you're not. There's a door. And 1/3 went with him. The angels went with him. Demons. Pride is the realm of the demonic. The 2/3 of the angels stayed back. They stayed in what? Humility. Even as a Christian, when you move to pride, you've aligned yourself spiritually in the demonic realm. And the Lord looks and goes, Rick, you sure you want to go over there? Are you sure? If you want to go over there, you're asking me to oppose you, and I will. That is not my realm. Why don't you move to humility? Come back over here. Yes, sir. And find grace. And every day, moment by moment by moment, you get to choose which way you want to be. Source of pleasure or a source of what? Is that helpful?
Yes.
What would be your takeaway from tonight? And then we'll bring Nico up. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Four quick things. One, my wife's right there with you on the mint chocolate chip, so she likes the green ice cream rather than the white. Number two, there's a law firm in Jacksonville that I heard this one day on the radio and I thought it was cool. Nobody is a nobody. I like that.
Yes.
You said in your talk tonight, Brother Rick, the way that you think you're coming across is not always the way that you are coming across.
Yeah.
Do you have any easy answer for us to find out, how I'm coming across to my audience?
Oh, I got answers for everything. And if I don't, I make them up.
And then the last thing is, at some point, you listed about 13 needs that all of us have. At some point, can you repeat what those are so we can write them down?
Yes. All right. So let me tell you how you do it. Years ago, self-awareness is the first hurdle for what's called emotional intelligence, which is really maturity. You cannot have self-control if you're not self-aware. You can't stop yourself from doing something if you're not aware you're doing it. We don't know, right? So 30 years ago, when I was starting my transformation, I needed a way to know how I'm coming across. So here's the way to do it. How do you know what you look like?
Look in the
Mirror. Wrong. You also know what you look like by water, blacked out iPad screen. You also know what you look like by a glass door or car window. Now we'll ask the question, how do you know what you look like? Reflection. It's a reflection. Here's what I learned. Father taught me. Everything you're doing in a moment and the way you're being is reflected in other people's body language. People reflect how you're being. And if you're being harsh, insensitive, watch their body language because their brain is designed by God to react to it. So I started watching my wife and my kids. And if I notice that she starts to shut down or ramp up or something, I go, whoa, wait a minute. Because I used them as a mirror for me. Rather than assume that she had a problem, pride, I assumed that I was the problem. And I go, hey, I noticed you're shutting down. How am I coming across? And she said, you really want to know? Yeah, I really want to know. Manipulative. I go, take a deep breath, regulate your heart, stay in the prefrontal cortex, where love comes from. And I'd say, and what am I doing that's sending you that message? This and this. And are you saying that when I do this and this, that comes across as manipulative? Yes. I'm learning. She's a feedback loop for me. And then I would say, forgive me. Because if that's sending you that message, I don't ever want to send that message to you. And then I would change it and do it differently. I let other people become the mirror for me.
Respectfully, and I know we gotta go, I've been to counseling and I've tried some of that.
Uh-huh.
There are some people that engage the conversation, they enjoy talking that way with me. But then there are other people that say, Terry, you're just way too deep. And people don't wanna have those kind of conversations with you to help you improve yourself. So what do you do with the people that don't want to engage like that?
Well, don't engage them, because to do that would be disrespectful.
Okay.
Always respect where people are. I have 4 values to live by. Humility, respect, empathy, and goodwill.
Right.
I became those things as best as I can maturely. You didn't say I have them, I became them. So that it everything I do, I go, well, it would be disrespectful to force someone to talk about stuff they don't want to talk about.
Right.
And there's no goodwill in doing it. And if it's disrespectful and ill will, then they can argue, you're not real loving, Rick.
Right.
Because love always treats people with humility, respect, and goodwill. So I regulate myself by my 4 values. I call it H-REG now. H equals REG. Got it?
Yes, sir.
And so that becomes the prism by which I make my decisions. And one other piece of that is, people will ask me, is this right or is that wrong? And I tell people, I don't answer right or wrong questions. Because that's black and white thinking. And most of the world is gray. Most of the world is gray. It ain't black and white. You can make it black and white, but in reality, it isn't black and white. Always ask this question. Not is this right or is it wrong? Based on what you know, what would wisdom dictate you do? Hear the difference? Based on what you know, what would wisdom dictate you do in this situation? Let wisdom be the guide, not right or wrong. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's a lady in the Hall of Faith, Rahab, who is a harlot. And she's in the Hall of Faith for one thing. You know what it was? Lying. That woman flat out lied to those people. There were people she was hiding upstairs. And she said they weren't. She wasn't. She lied. Lying's a sin. She shouldn't have sinned. She said, you're right. You caught me. Go up and kill him. She didn't do that. Because wisdom dictated, what did she do? To protect those people. Now, am I saying I'm advocating lying? No. But wisdom is a better way to find out what to do than right or wrong. Wisdom requires you thinking beyond yourself to other people. And by the way, the 10 needs, there are 10 needs. C is comfort. There's 5 A words, and they are attention, acceptance, appreciation, approval,
Slow down.
and affection.
Are these on their website?
No. I don't usually carry those cards with me because we teach that in our work or in the marriage work or relationship workshop.
What I heard you say was comfort, attention, acceptance, appreciation, approval, and affection.
R is respect.
Respect.
E is encouragement. 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Encourage one another. And the last 2 are S squared, security. Galatians 6:2 has to do with that, and support. I mean, Galatians 6:2 has to do with support.
Security.
Yeah. That help?
You said, what is our takeaway? My takeaway is sometimes I think I'm being a source of pleasure to people, but after your class tonight, apparently I'm a source of pleasure.
And just saying that makes you a source of pleasure.
Knowledge is power.
Well,
It was allowed.
years ago when our son still lived at home, just to be real personal, I'd come home having a bad day at work. Shelly and my son laid me on the bed and tickled me to death. I hated it. But when I got up from the bed, I felt a whole lot better. It is
Amen.
true what the Bible says, laughter is good for the soul.
It is. Don't take the world too seriously. There's a lot of bad in the world, but you know what? there's still a lot of beauty in the world, isn't it? And not to say this, what culture has done and what history has done, it's made relationships based on very, very shallow things, like skin color.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody's brain here, I don't care if you're black, white, green, yellow, whatever, everybody's brain does one thing. It operates the same way. You have a limbic system, I have a limbic system. You have a survival brain, I have a survival brain. You ever think your brain act wrong? I mean, she does, I mean not, right? All human brains do the same thing. So if you think about it, at the biological level, other than something shallow, we're all the same. Even culturally, we're still the same. Because those 10 needs I just gave you are biologically hardwired into people's brains at birth, and it'll stay with you to the day you die. And Africans have them, Slavics have them, Latinos have them. Everyone has the same relational needs because all brains work the same way. We let culture trump our biology, right? 40% of my families historically are Muslim. I have Muslim family who live in Jordan. But there are those who will wear the burqas and hide all their, because they're afraid if they don't, they'll be harmed. But why do some of those ladies, like in Saudi Arabia a few years ago, they went and drove cars anyways, knowing they could be killed? Because something inside them said, I still want to be respected. Biology. Biology. Does that make sense? Because all of us are the same when it comes to our brain. The rest of this, have a relationship. It isn't worth fighting over those kinds of things. So what? I have an Egyptian daughter-in-law. You know? I got family members that are Muslim. I got family members that are Jew. I got both bloodlines in me. That's why I wake up every once in a while with a suicide bomb, start to myself to kill it. But the Jewish side gets it oftentimes. Who knows? You know? Airstrikes on each side. I'm being silly, but you get the idea. We're all human, we're all people, worthy of being treated with dignity and respect and goodwill. If you do that, you'll be a source of what?
Pleasure.
And people will always feel love for you, want to be around you. If you do the opposite, you'll be a source of pain. And people's brain will not want to be around you. It's real simple. It's not rocket science.